This is Larry at the best and reminding you what you feel, you attract, what you imagine, you become, what you say, you see, and what you hear influences the results you produce in your world. You know, during the last few sessions, I have been going over that quotation in the book of Proverbs. But I'm going to take a break from that now. And here is why. I've got something very, very interesting, very, very encouraging and empowering to share with you that I think will kind of put together all of these principles that we've been talking about for some time. And I almost don't know exactly where to start, but I know where I'm going. And one thing I'm going to ask you is, during these next few sessions, you've got to be willing to give me more than the usual 2 to 3 minutes. This is going to take a little bit longer, and I think it's that important, because what I'm going to be talking to you about is what I consider to be the greatest, the biggest game in life. And you ought to pay attention, because this has everything to do with you, why you're achieving the goals you're achieving and why you're not achieving some of your other goals. So listen carefully. Pay very close attention. Remember, incidentally, that's what we were talking about last week, the importance of paying attention. So you got to pay attention to what I'm going to be going over the next few sessions. It might take us a week, it might take 2 weeks, it might take longer. It's that important. But before I do that, let me share this quotation with you. And it goes something like this: the world is ruled and the destiny of civilization is established by the human emotion. People are influenced not by reason so much as by emotions. Let me repeat it. The world is ruled and the destiny of civilization is established by the human emotion. People are influenced in their actions not by reason so much as by their emotions. Okay, now that is a quotation from Napoleon Hill. What does that have to do with what I'm going to be talking to you about? We'll get there now. First of all, from my perspective, I think life itself is a game, a huge game, the holy game with its own principles, rules of playing the games, the spiritual principles, the eternal verities. And the closer you and I get to those principles, the better our lives work out. So what is this game I'm referring to? As you all know, we recently had the presidential elections in the U.S. And as you guys also know, some of you know, I used to be a political junkie. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I knew almost the names of all 100 U.S. senators. I mean, I was into it. I mean, I watched all of the news programs. But recently, my interest has started waning. However, because I'm still somewhat of a political junkie, when we get close to the election day, whether it's the midterm election or the presidential election, I tune back in again. And that's what I did. And I noticed something interesting when we started getting closer to the election day. What I noticed was that both camps, the Romney camp and the Obama camp, were predicting they were going to win. And the way they were talking, it was like you really couldn't figure out what was going on, because they were so convinced they were going to win. And then the pollsters didn't make it any easier either, because they had all these polls going all over. And finally I said to myself, I was starting to get concerned. And finally I said, you know what? We'll figure out whatever is going to be on election day, and that's the end of it. We'll figure out what happened. So obviously the election came and we got the results. Again, being a political junkie, I mean, for the past week or so, man, I probably watched, well, not much TV. I probably read more articles and news stories on Yahoo in the past week than I did probably in the past year. I mean, I wanted to know everything. And the reason why I was so interested was because of something I read shortly after the election. Remember, guys, the way my brain works is this. Everything I do pretty much is based on the original success formula. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you become. What you say, you see. What you hear influences the results you produce in your world. And I always want to tie everything I do to that success formula, and also see where the principles I'm working with originate, how they relate to my understanding of Genesis 1. So when we get the results, one thing that really kind of bugged me, I mean, it didn't bother me, but it caught my attention. I kept reading about this whole scenario, that one of the reasons it took Mitt Romney a little bit of time to concede was because he and his campaign were shell-shocked. They did not believe they were going to lose. I mean, they knew they had this stuff in the bag. So the first thing that occurred to me is, now, what happened? How could both of them be so convinced that they were going to win, and then one camp falls short? Who violated what principle? Who applied what principle? So while I was thinking about that and reading through, I came across this article. I think it was on Wednesday. No, maybe it was on Wednesday or Thursday. Oh, I think it was on Thursday. And this article in Yahoo basically talked about the fact that Mitt Romney was so convinced he was going to win that his campaign accidentally released a website after the election that was showing what Mitt Romney was going to make public if he had won. And that site was making reference to President-elect Romney. It even talked about how to get a job in the Romney administration. Now, when I saw that freaked me out. And let me tell you what I mean by it freaked me out. It freaked me out because I said, wait a minute. How could Mitt Romney have gone this far and not win the election? Because all the principles I've been talking to you about, he was applying them. Obviously, that was the principle of imagination at work. He saw himself with the end result. He had a website. And if you guys need this link, I'll get it to you. He even had a phrase referring to, I think he said something like, now my job is to get the American people back to work. In other words, he saw himself with the answer. And then I read another article that said that Miss Romney couldn't believe when they were going to concede. She couldn't believe they were going to concede. So anyway, you know what? I've gone over time. Like I told you, I'm going to go over time today. But this is very exciting. And during the next sessions, I'm going to tell you the principles that were violated by the Romney campaign that caused them not to win, and the principles that the Obama camp used that caused them to win. You need to know this, because this makes a huge difference in the way you and I run our lives. And then you're going to find out again why the phrase you and I have always heard, consciousness is the one and only reality. You're going to find out why that principle is so powerful. I'm telling you, Genesis chapter 1 rules and reigns supreme forevermore. The success formula is not going anywhere. Even in this biggest game of all, I've been able to decipher those principles, and I want to share them with you because they are very, very important. So I'll talk to you later on. Thank you for bearing with me. And in the meantime, be careful what you hear, because it makes every difference in the results you produce in your world, as you'll find out later on. Bye.